Well, thank you all so much for being here today. I'm State Senator Donovan Fenton. I represent District 10 down in the State Senate, which is the Keene area. And I want to thank St. A's for hosting us. Yep. And Jim and Stand Up New Hampshire. This is so important. It really shows that American democracy runs through New Hampshire. And having these candidates here really shows how strong the First in the Nation primary is here in New Hampshire. And we have a lot at stake this year. I'm going to steal some of Cory's verbiage, okay, because he inspires us all. But, we don't want you to leave here feeling fully good. And that's kind of a crazy thing to say, right? We want you to leave here with a fire in your belly to get something done, to get organized, to get activated, and get engaged. And I know all of you are here and willing to do that, so thank you. Introducing Kelly Garrity. Kelly Garrity is Politico's #1 reporter for New Hampshire. She has a lot on her plate if you have to report on New Hampshire, because we are this uniquely beautiful, wild circus that is New Hampshire politics. So Kelly's able to encapsulate that immensely, which is not an easy thing to do. So thank you, Kelly. I don't know where she is.
Right here.
Oh, right there. There you go. Yeah. Sorry about that. And now to the man of the hour. I have personally known Senator Booker for a long time. One of his first house parties was in Keene, New Hampshire, so in my neck of the woods. And he has set the bar so high for what a candidate should be and what constituent services look like. I always joke that, we don't have retail politics here because of us. Cory Booker kind of bought us retail politics. And I have a question for everyone. Who in here has not gotten a hug from Cory Booker? You got some work to do. There's some hands up here. But it's so true because it shows just what type of man he is. And I think when there's such a disconnect between our elected officials and our constituents, that he really fills that gap and shows us just exactly what we're in this for. And I got to tell a quick personal story. My mom is a retired journalist. And she said, "Hey, you think Cory Booker will read my book that I'm writing?" And I was like, "Mom, the senator from New Jersey is not going to read your book that you're writing." And she was like, "Will you ask?" I was like, "No, I'm not gonna ask the sitting New Jersey senator to read your book." And so she somehow got a hold of his staff, and the staff was like, "Yeah, of course he's going to read your book." And then she knew I was going to introduce him here today. And she goes, "Well, you got to bring the book." And I was like, "Mom, I'm not bringing the book. He's got a little bit more on his plate than that right now." So we compromised, and I have a copy of the book right here.
All right.
So you are all my witness that I'm giving him the book, okay? So if my mom asks. But Cory Booker serves on judiciary, small business, agriculture, and more than just titles, he does a lot for us in New Hampshire, and he gives us something that I think we really need, and that's hope right now. The wind are in our sails right now, and we need candidates that are willing to stand up for us and show us how to fight. So thank you, Senator Booker. And without further ado, please welcome the senator from New Jersey, Senator Cory Booker.
Senator, thanks for doing this.
I'm psyched to be here. Thank you.
To start out, do you want to just tell us a little bit about why you're in New Hampshire today?
Yeah, Martin Luther King said something really profound, that we are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Those are lofty spiritual words, but they are practically true in America. What happens in New Hampshire in your Senate race is directly impacting what I do as New Jersey senator, because we have fallen, for example, once one vote short of permanently cutting child poverty in half when we were one vote shy of getting the child tax credit. So your elections up here are vital to me. And so when your party chairman, whose birthday is today, happy birthday, when your party chairman calls me up and says, "Hey, could you anchor our state party dinner, help us raise some money?" I'm like, I want to do that work. I crisscross this country as much as I can away from my New Jersey duties to help people. So that's really what I'm here.
First question, an easy one. No name on this one, but someone wants to know, should New Hampshire continue to have the First in the Nation primary?
So I started my career at 28 with a beautiful afro, by the way. I miss it so much. I started my career knocking on doors in Newark, New Jersey, Central Ward, where I still live today. And there is such a incredible power in that direct connection. I've gone across this country and campaigned in a lot of states, but you all have created a very special tradition here that really is about connecting to people individually. I want that tradition to continue. I think you all should be the first primary in the nation.
We have a question from Talia from Nashua, who says that she supported you in 2020 and has two questions. One is, do you have any idea just how many Granite State hearts were broken when you ended your campaign? And two, do you think the DNC is running fair and open primaries?
Wow. So where's Talia? There you are. First of all, I gotta hug you. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you, thank you. Okay, so Talia, I am very worried about democracy right now. And as much as what Donald Trump is doing is torching our Constitution, not respecting separation of powers, threatening judges, the third branch of government, and as much as congressional Republicans are failing to even call hearings on extrajudicial bombings of boats in the ocean, or putting people before the Senate who texted out battle plans, like our Secretary of Defense and others, they're not performing their role of checks and balances. I'm also concerned about our democracy for Democrats. We need to start calling out our own party and telling the truth that our party is not getting it right. I have seen it in my own state, where we try to create fairer and fairer primaries by putting the people back in focus and not party leaders. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think that this next election in 26, I want to see more Democratic candidates. It's so easy to talk about the other side of the aisle, but start having candidates start stepping up and saying what Democrats should be doing right now to protect our democracy. And I'll give you one example. I think we as a nation tolerate too much corruption, period. Why are senators in both parties trading stocks? We have so much access to information. We should have a public that knows you're not trying to get corporate profits, but you're standing up for the people, but we haven't ended that. So I want to see more courageous people in both parties standing up and calling balls and strikes within their own party.
This one also came without a name, but someone says, I live in a predominantly Republican town. If I'm looking to flip representation to blue, should I try to find common ground or take the gloves off and call for current reps out for their shortcomings?
So I don't want to tell anybody what to do. You need to follow what your heart and what you think is best. I will tell you a lesson I learned back in '98 when I first started is I would knock on doors and my staff would see me knocking on doors, convincing somebody to vote for me, and 9 doors in a row. And then I find a 10th door where the person doesn't like me. And my ego back then was like, I'm going to stand at this door and convince this person like me. And I would spend 20, 30 minutes trying to talk them into voting for me. And then I would leave and my staff would jump on me and say, you know, in that 30 minutes, you could have hit another 8 doors. So I just want to let you know, think about your energy and your time and what best gets you to your goal and how you're going to invest it. And when you meet somebody that disagrees with you, let me tell you, for all those who are looking for inner peace, one of the best pieces of advice I've gotten for inner peace ever was you do not have to attend every argument that you're invited to.
Paul in Atkinson wants to know, how do we increase school budgets in an environment where affordability and lowering taxes is a priority?
Where is Paul? Paul, I won't hug you. You seem very defensive there. I will not assault you without permission or invitation. So I think we are in a public education crisis in America. I think we are disinvesting in public education. And I think we have a anemic vision of what public education is about. And that anemic vision is everything for, in our schools, textbooks are vital for education, but so is a school lunch. And the fact that we don't fund them universally is absurd. Public education should start a lot earlier, before kindergarten or nursery school, because brain development, most of it happens 80, 90% before you're 5 years old. We have to begin not to keep choking off public education, but understanding it is a public good that needs more investment, because more investment means more return. We are in a global knowledge-based society now. The more you learn, the more you earn, and we are now being outpaced by other countries who are trying to out-America us when we used to better fund our public schools. And so the one direct answer I want to give to your question about taxes and teachers and drawing more people into the profession, I'm very proud of this, is the bill I have that I hope one day, when the Democrats get back control, we can pass it, is we give Wall Street executives a tax break called carried interest. They pay less taxes than their secretaries. Let's create a nation where we say if you are willing to be a public school professional, from a teacher to a mental health counselor, that you pay the same tax rate that the Wall Street wealthy do in the carried interest rate. That would give every public school teacher thousands of more dollars into their pocket to help attract more people into the profession. And here's something I know about public school teachers. That money is not going to stay in their pocket or just go to their family. The most generous people I know, who especially right now that we're underfunding food programs, underfunding the basic needs that families are having trouble meeting, is public teachers every single day. Tens of thousands of dollars are coming out of the pockets of public schools teachers to buy things for their students that should be basic needs. If we give public school teachers, a boost in salary, I promise you, all of America will reap the returns.
Mark Boyd is asking, if President Trump would have to step down as president, do you think that Vice President Vance would govern any differently?
I think it was the great Maya Angelou that says, if someone tells you who they are, believe them. J.D. Vance has told us who he is, time and time again. And when Donald Trump needs somebody to double down, whether it's defending him on the Epstein files or his failure to condemn the kind of bigotry that we see in these group chats that were exposed, he is showing and telling America, I am a Donald Trump acolyte. Now, let's be real, because I've seen this amongst a lot of my Republican colleagues. During the 2016 primaries, a lot of my colleagues, from Ted Cruz to Lindsey Graham, know them both, work with them both where we can, and Vice President J.D. Vance told the truth about Donald Trump. Go look up J.D. Vance's truth-telling about who Donald Trump was. But suddenly, when he wanted to get elected to the United States Senator, he ran to Mar-a-Lago and contorted himself. He had somehow seen a conversion moment where he became Donald Trump's biggest supporter. I have an incredible fiance who has done yoga with me before. Let me tell you, the way Republicans are contorting themselves to do whatever Donald Trump does is an advanced form of yoga that I will never, ever do.
Sandy from Nashua asks, will Affordable Care Act tax credits be agreed upon soon?
Where is Sandy? Sandy.
I have a pre-existing condition as of a year ago today, or this week, so
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with cancer. So I'm very concerned about the pre-existing conditions part, the whole ACA, but also the pre-existing part.
So Sandy, that is terrifying, and I can only imagine what you and your family are dealing with, staring at cancer diagnosis. So first and foremost, I'm praying for you. I've seen a lot of people fight through those things. My family has had those experiences, so I'm just wishing you blessings in this fight that's coming up. This is a moral moment in America, and it's a definitional moment in our country. Who are we going to be? Most Americans cannot afford the health care they have. Most Americans are one diagnosis with all the co-pays and premium payments. They are in a situation where they could lose everything. And the barbarism that we live in a nation where people are making horrific decisions. I've talked to so many couples in New Jersey where they're trying to debate what's the best way forward. Do both of us give up our health insurance so our kids with special needs can keep it? Or maybe I'll give up health insurance so you can afford it? I sat with a town hall with New Jerseyans and had to hold my own emotions. There's 3 women there. We weren't discussing this, but they all talked about their breast cancer diagnoses. Young women who had their lives turned upside down with bills that they never imagined would come their way, that now with the end of the premiums, they were going to lose their health insurance, which often would mean they would not be able to access the doctors that have been helping them with that diagnosis. This is not who we are as a country. I don't care. This is not a partisan issue. Poll Republicans, Independents, and Democrats. They all will say the same thing. This is not who we are. So I've drawn the battle line. This is why I didn't support the bill that we just put through the Senate. It's why I fought against the big, beautiful bill that gutted Medicaid. I have drawn this battle line, and I'm going to stand and fight. Because stories like yours live in my heart, seared in my heart, because I think this is more than healthcare. It's about the story of who we are as a nation. At the end of our Declaration of Independence, you should test everybody that claims to be a leader in our country. Are they living up to this? It says we must mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Where is the honor in letting people go without health care and face life's challenges and see their whole family descend into bankruptcy and worse? We should be a nation, the most powerful country in the world, where we assure people that through quality health care for everyone, we can have truly a nation of life, liberty, and happiness.
We have a related question. Someone wants to know, what do you think needs to change to strengthen the ACA?
Well, I want to start to say, as much as I support the Affordable Care Act, it was a lot of Band-Aids on a broken system that didn't fix the system as a whole. It expanded healthcare for millions of Americans, but it's still broken. So this is what's really bothering to me, is that the Republicans are taking something that was patchwork at best and saying they're going to break it even further. But let's just start having a real conversation in America that's saying our healthcare system is screwed up. And you see this with corporate CEOs for insurance companies making so astronomical figures when insurance started like a century ago as a nonprofit endeavor. And now they're telling their shareholders, we're going to hold back more and more money for shareholder profits and put less of the dollars we have in people paying their insurance. If we can get that from 70% of our dollars going back to people to maybe 65%, this is absurd. So my goal right now, given the political environment we're in, is to stop it from getting worse and figure out where we can gain ground, and it might have to be incremental. Maybe we need to say, okay, Medicaid, maybe if we move the starting time for Medicaid down 5 years, or maybe 58 you can start qualifying, 57, 56. But we have to understand that this speaks to unfinished business. And it starts with the presumption we're the only wealthy nation of our sort of status that puts people into the crazy reality that I have to wonder if I should call an ambulance or not, because I'm going to have to pay for it. There's going to have to come a point that I want to try to force that asks the question of what kind of nation will we be? We clearly have the money in the system because we pay as Americans more for health care than any other country. and we have the worst outcomes of wealthy countries. It's absurd. So I will tell you this right now. Right now, the fight is clear. You have the Republican Party that has put themselves on the side of wanting to gut your health care, to give tax cuts to the wealthiest. It's clear through the bills they've passed. And then we have leaders, and God, we need new leaders in this country, who are going to step up and say, wait a minute, this whole system is broken, and let's start offering true solutions to remove 30, 40, 50% of Americans out of this constant anxiety and fear that one bad diagnosis can destroy my family's well-being.
Another one without a name, but someone is asking, what are your feelings about your fellow Democratic senators voting in favor of the spending bill recently passed? Is a change in leadership needed?
So I disagree with their decision, but I'm a football player, and football, some of you don't know this, but I got in, there's a lot of college students here, I got into college for the best way because of a 4.0, 1600, 4.0 yards per carry, 1,600 receiving yards. It helped me to be an All-American football player in high school. And I learned some of my best lessons of life were forged on the football field. And so I could always tell you when we were going to score a touchdown. I was a wide receiver and a tight end. I could always tell you. I would tell my friends in the huddle, my colleagues in the huddle, we're going to score here. Why? Because I would look at the other huddle, and they would be arguing amongst themselves. They would be demeaning somebody who missed a tackle or made a mistake. And I knew that division, we were going to exploit it, and I would be in the end zone, or one of my colleagues' teammates would be in the end zone. I also learned, as a guy who, the older I get, by the way, the better I was at football, so I never dropped a pass. But I will tell you, I also learned that when you make a big mistake on a play, get back in the huddle, tighten your chin strap, because we have work to do with the people that are fighting us. So that play's done. I'm not happy about it. I think we lost yardage, and the kind of large yardage we lost is not a gain. It's our health care. But that play is over. I need everyone. I need everyone. No matter how you voted, we need to get back in the huddle because the stakes are so high. And we need to, at a time that the opposition is trying to take away health care, raise your grocery costs, at a time they're trying to attack feeding programs like school lunches, Meals on Wheels, we have work to do. Get in the huddle and get ready for the next play.
This one says, what do you say to those who feel like the Democratic Party turned their back on the working class and are on the side of billionaires?
I would say I feel the same way. I'm serious. It's hard to say the Democratic Party. It paints with a broad brush. I'm literally sitting in a circle around Democratic Party leaders in this state that are not that. God, 2019, I fell in love with New Hampshire. It's my second favorite new state after New Jersey. So let's not paint a broad brush. The Democratic Party in its whole is city council people. It's mayors of small towns who don't get a salary but sacrifice every day for their communities. The Democratic Party is a state rep. I hear you have a few of them in New Hampshire that, again, don't do it for the money. So I just want to talk about those people for a second, because when I meet those folks who get up every single day, they have their own kids, but go out and fight for other people's children, who some of them are 60, 70 years old, and they're like, as long as I have breath in my body and blood in my veins, I'm going to fight for America. Those people are the bulk of who the Democratic Party is. But now I'm in the Senate, and I am angry that, again, we as a nation tolerate too much corruption. Years ago, I'm the 4th senator, I don't think there's been that many more, who said, I'm not taking corporate PAC money. Because I think it is inherently corrupting when the healthcare industry, sincerely, why is our healthcare so screwed up? I just heard this data point, I need to fact check it, that I thought it was the oil industry or the defense industry, but I just looked at some data that said the number one industry that pours money into Washington to affect our health care is the healthcare industry and the pharma industry. And so when they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars, I think they're probably getting a return on that. And if we have a political system that says, when I'm up for re-election, put out my bag, I'm sorry, if I'm a voter, Democrat, Republican, I'm like, who are you fighting for? So yes, I think one of the big tasks of Americans, not Democrats or Republicans, is to end the corruption in our system. Politicians shouldn't take corporate PAC money. They shouldn't be allowed to trade stocks. They definitely, hello, Donald Trump, shouldn't be able to create meme coins. We need to understand, as I learned, that if you put new wine in old skins, as they say, it gets spoiled. That system has to improve if we want better results as a democracy. So yes, I agree with people who say that there is too much corruption in American politics, except for one thing, which is, I'll end how I started. Do not surrender to cynicism. There are so many good people out there, and I believe not enough of them are standing up. The only thing necessary for evil to be triumphant is for good people to do nothing. We need more people that will stand and fight against corruption and for good policy.
Marie in Manchester wants to know, how do you level the playing field in primaries so that it's the candidate and not how much money they raise that determines the winner?
What's the person's name?
Marie.
Where is Marie? Is this Roe, like the hot row here? Marie, thank you very much. I will be very candid here. I'm glad to be up here working for candidates, but like when I travel to other states, one of the big things that candidates ask me for is money. And I spend a lot of time, even though I don't take corporate PAC money, I ask a lot of people for contributions so that I can help the Democratic Party in New Jersey, the Democratic Party in New Hampshire, and I'm one of the better fundraisers in our party. But I don't want us to have a system where our leaders have to spend so much time raising money. I love what Martin Luther King said. It's not the color of your skin, it's the content of your character. I want us to have a system that selects for the people the best character and qualifications to do a job, not who is better at raising money. One of the worst things to happen to our country, one of the most corrupting things that's happened in America, is Citizens United. Now, I will tell you that two parties have said things about Citizens United. One has fought to preserve it, and one, when Nancy Pelosi was head of the House, and the first bill they put up was to end Citizens United and create more fair campaign finance rules. It was an extraordinary piece of legislation, and it got blocked by Republicans. So while I will continue to be a voice in our party to say we have to check ourselves, I hope that in these next two election cycles, the Democrats in New Hampshire get the governor's seat, get the state Senate, get the state House, and that we in Washington can get back control. And I hope the Americans, when they give us that opportunity, stand back and say, okay, put up or shut up. And I will be one of those people arguing loudest is that we end Citizens United, bring about more sound campaign finance rules, and end the corruption I've talked about already.
Someone wants to know, how can Democrats address the toxicity that comes with a D next to a candidate's name in much of rural America?
Go out and talk to people in rural America. I love what Brene Brown says, it's hard to hate up close. So pull people in. I think the Democratic Party has one thing to atone for, which is losing working people. And so whether it's people in rural areas or people in my own city of Newark, who say, I work harder than my parents and I make less money than they did. I had a dream of owning a home, but it's out of reach. I had 5 generations that have had this farm in southern Illinois, 5 generations, and I'm about to lose my farm. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, what are you going to do to address the problem that the dream of America, the dream of my forefathers and mothers, is in crisis for the majority of Americans? More than 50% of Americans are living in constant economic anxiety. So let's forget left or right. I want a new generation of leaders to step up and begin to talk to the truth. Is we are a nation where we have common pain, but we have lost our sense of common purpose. This isn't a left or right problem, it's a right or wrong problem. What kind of country are we going to be? And so I'm one of these voices in the Democratic Party. I want us to, it's time for a Democratic Party renewal. It's time for a new generation. I revere the greatest generation. When I meet people from my grandfather's generation who had victory gardens and bought war bonds or who served, I feel this sense of reverence and gratitude that I can't even fully express. I want to tell you, baby boomers, a lot of them in the room, your generation, what a record you guys have. You're the civil rights generation. You're the generation that won Roe v. Wade. And you fought for that. That wasn't some Supreme Court decree. There are people in this room that were marching when I was in a crib and fighting for a lot of the advances that we have right now. What is the epitaph of my generation going to be? X, or millennials who are coming up, or Gen Z. Our story is not written because the American stage is waiting for you. What will be your great story? What impossible things are we going to do? Yes, they've already gone to the moon, they beat the Nazis, but what will we do? I'm tired of people thinking that we can't. We are Americans, not Americans. That's the only dad joke I get today, I'm sorry. I feel this boldness of hope right now. It's one of the darkest moments I've seen in my lifetime, but it's actually one of my most hopeful moments. Because hope isn't some shiny thing that looks all good. Hope is wounded, hope is scarred. Hope has gone out there and gotten beaten down, but resurrects itself. Hope is the active conviction that despair will not have the last word. I want ours to be the generation of hope again, that renews the hope of America and the very idea that redeems the dream. And so this is the time for us, X's, Gen Z's, millennials, to stand up and say, okay, I got this. We are going to create a healthcare system that works for all Americans. We're going to end the corporate monopolization that's going on that's driving farmers out of their jobs. We're going to create a campaign finance system that selects for the best of us, not for those that have the most rich friends. We're going to create a country where people can buy homes again. Don't tell me it's impossible. I will tell you that American history is a perpetual testimony to the achievement of impossible things against impossible odds. You want to know what the epitaph of my generation I want? I want it to be just that. There were doubters and naysayers in our nation and across the world. But our generation stood up, grabbed that baton, and showed that our nation will lead humanity in showing that our way of life can produce the best possible results for all.
Somebody wants to know, do you think the country is prepared for a large-scale war with countries like Russia or China?
I mean, prepared, I believe we are. But I'm of the generation that has seen us go to wars that we should not have gone to. I don't know, you all know this, Bill Clinton was the last person to balance the US budget. And then Bush comes in and takes trillions of our dollars, and goes to war in Iraq. And then he compounds that. I mean, you want to talk about fiscal nightmare. I'm going to ratchet up US spending by the trillions of dollars in a war we shouldn't have gone into, and I'm going to give you tax cuts. first generation in American history to go to war and not ask for the common sacrifice. They put it all on about 1% of our population, and the rest of us got more money. I shouldn't say the rest of us, especially the wealthy people. God love them. I mean, we are suffering for that now. Our children's children will pay for that now through our deficits. So, no, we should not be going to war with China or Russia. We should have diplomacy. And I'm telling you right now, the worst diplomat I've ever seen is the guy we have in the White House right now, who is alienating our allies, bombing nations already, blowing up speedboats. He is the most reckless, dangerous people. Don't take my word for it. Remember how many former national security and national defense people from both parties who warned us that he is an existential threat to the safety and security of America and the world.
Somebody wants to know, how do you balance advocacy for economic and social justice?
Well, I come from parents who are civil rights activists, and most people forget that the March on Washington, when you looked at their pillars, most of them were economic. I mean, one of the best things you could do for social justice is have jobs with dignity. My grandparents and my parents lived in a nation where the black-white wealth gap was closing. My generation, again, what's our story going to be? The black-white wealth gap is growing again. I want the Democratic Party to get back to that. Maslow's pyramid. The bottom of that pyramid is the fundamental needs that every American family wants, whether you're black, white, gay, straight. There's something that we need to deliver on that we're not delivering on. That is the safety. If I'm a family, the first thing I want is the safety of my family and the economic prosperity and prospects for my family. Those two things are not there right now. I know there's public school teachers here. Thank you. Let me talk to you about safety. The number one killer of our children is gun violence. So you now in your schools, if you're like New Jersey, have more active shooter drills than fire drills. Correct. With the subtle implication to our children, what we're teaching our children is that the most powerful nation in the world, we can't protect you, so we're going to teach you how to hide. Number one killer of our children is gun violence, and our response to it is let's teach our children how to hide. Maslow's pyramid. I have talked to so many parents who fear for the safety of their children. And when they look at what's killing children these days, two things: lack of access to health care and gun violence. And what is our country doing right now? Nothing on those things. In fact, we're going the other way. We're doing more to undercut the health and well-being of our children, from our broken food system to the lack of prenatal care. That's the safety part. And then the economic well-being, well, we all know that. Many people in this room are feeling it. So I hear you. There's nobody who has a better record in the Senate, I would say, maybe Dick Durbin, for fighting for social justice issues. I passed a bill under Donald Trump for criminal justice reform because of our broken criminal justice reform issue. But the first thing a family wants to hear from a leader is, I will stand up and fight to make sure your family is safe and your family has what my family had in my grandfather's generation, my father's generation, which is pathways to prosperity. If we get that right, I promise you, as a black guy from Jersey, I promise you we will be better positioned to make sure that all our social justice issues fall into place.
Another question without a name, but this person asks, how do you think your party can be more assertive in defending its values and communicating a clear vision for working families?
Well, I hope the working families things you've heard is the line through everything I've been saying today. I want my party to get back to being for working people. My grandfather, poor guy from Mississippi with my grandmother, moved to Detroit, and then my grandfather got a job on the assembly lines during World War II. He was building bombers. My grandmother was the person that was tending the Victory Garden. They were buying war bonds. They had a pathway to the middle class. They were the Jeffersons. They moved on up to a deluxe apartment. They were entrepreneurs. They opened up a laundromat, a pool hall. Statute of limitations is gone, so I can confess to everybody here. The story is that they ran numbers too, but okay. Before the lottery was legit and the government was taking its piece. They fought to move the Democratic Party, black people, from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party. Blacks were Republicans back then. The old saying was, turn Lincoln's picture to the wall. And my grandfather said, I was a Democrat because they were for working people. They were for Social Security, they were for health care, they were for unions. And the party then held a dominance in American politics that inarguably brought things that both Democrats and Republicans now say is gospel. If you are a Republican and you are my brother and sister, you are my fellow American first, just know that your workers' rights, your 5-day work week, all of that came from the Democratic Party and the union leaders. If you're a Republican, and we're one of those Republicans that got Donald Trump to say, I will not cut Medicare, lies, but okay, but know that we have Medicare and Medicaid because of the Democratic Party. If you are an American that loves public schools, we have public schools that are vibrant and thriving and strong because of the Democratic Party. I could go through all the things that we now take for granted that were from my grandfather's generation to the time I was born, gains that were made, including reproductive rights, being able to control your own body, including being able to marry who you love. The Democratic Party brought us all of those things. But as the question said before, I think we've lost our way a little bit and need to get back to that. So that's the issues of economic justice. But our party also has to show, in the first part of your question, character. I was taught in Newark politics by extraordinary people. Some of them, those are Democrats that, when we malign the Democratic Party, we malign the tenant leaders in the projects in Newark, diehard Democrats. And some of these elders of mine taught me a very simple truth. You cannot lead the people if you don't love the people. We have a president right now who models cruelty and a crassness and a vileness unapologetically. If you want a nation that gets back to the values and virtues that our founders wrestled with, these imperfect geniuses, they wrestled with the best of virtue. I have a book coming out in a few months about the 10 virtues that made America and that we're losing, we need to double down on now if we're going to save America. So I want our country to get back to the fundamental idea of we must love one another, that your suffering of your family affects my family, that when your kid doesn't have access to a great public school, my kid is lesser from that. When your kid is struggling with type 1 diabetes and can't afford insulin and things, my family is lesser than that. How did the nation that literally written into our founding documents are the ideals of love, mutually pledge, life, fortune, sacred, that's love. The ideals that we pledge allegiance to, liberty and justice for all, why have we allowed ourselves to lose so much of this ideal that we need to put more indivisible back into this one nation under God? So I want character to get back to being central in American politics. And shame coming back to politics, that when a politician does horrific things, they don't double down and I don't ever apologize, but they do things that are courageous and step up and say, I was wrong, I made a mistake, or I apologize. And that's not a monopoly on either party. I saw it in John McCain when he pulled a microphone away from a woman who was calling Barack Obama vile names. I saw it on the floor with Mitt Romney, who had the courage to stand up and call out his own party. I want to be a leader that helps the Democratic Party get back on track, focusing on safety and prosperity. But I also want to be a leader that tries, as imperfect as I am, to model, to be the change I want to see in the world. And if anything America needs to do, and the corporations who try to demand our attention and try to convince us to hate each other, we need a politics in America that's redemptive. And I believe, like John Lewis taught me, that the goal should be to create a more beloved community.
We got just a couple of more here, and this is a bit of a tone shift. Someone wants to know what shoes you wore during the 25-hour filibuster.
I try to be very thoughtful. As a senator, we have good salaries, and I try to then, having that privilege, to just try to be thoughtful with the clothes I wear, where they're made, their environmental impact. But I just have to say, I look for the most comfortable shoes I had in my closet. So I wore Hoka's. But the Hoka's didn't get me through. I will be honest with you. The body has limits, but the spirit has none. And what lifted me in that 25 hours were the letters from Americans that I read, who had the courage to be vulnerable and write me letters about some of their most painful realities, like some of you have done in the questions you've asked. One of the virtues in my book is vulnerability and the power of that. And so I wanted to stand for as long as I humanly could and try to center that strength, which is how vulnerable we all are right now. And what happened around the 20th hour, when my legs were cramping up and my body was telling me it's reaching its limits, is I was soaring. I want to tell you right now, my chief of staff and I were arguing on paper back and forth. She's like, you broke Strom Thurmond's record, you should wind this down. And I'm like, I could go for another 5 hours. Because of the energy that I got from so many people who were tuning in and filling the galleries. But the last thing I want to make a point to you is, you want to know who heroic people who stand up for 20, 25 hours are? It's not a senator in his Hoka's. It's the person that you all know here in New Hampshire who picks up the third shift at a diner because their family, because they don't know if their family can eat. It's the person in a hospital doing jobs that we don't afford enough dignity to, that pull 24-hour shifts. It's some of the firefighters I've met who jump out of planes behind the lines of a fire and pull 18-hour shifts facing infernos so that they could save a family's home. I stood for 25 hours on the Senate floor. I'm so happy that my mom got to see me break a ranting racist record. But that day, I didn't stand for myself or some Senate record. I stood for all those Americans who stand and wonder, who in Washington will stand for me?
You've been talking a lot about safety today. I'm curious if you think your party has a winning message on crime heading into 2026.
I think we got screwed up. And it wasn't the majority of our party, because the majority of our party, I keep describing, are like the people in this room that are holding elected offices or running for elected offices. Some voices in our party, at exactly the wrong time, use slogans that the Republican Party weaponized. I am the only United States senator, I think, that lives in a low-income community in a black and brown neighborhood. Newark is a majority black city, and if you add Latinos into that, which are such an extraordinary part of our city, it's about 85% black and Latino. If you polled Newark, New Jersey after George Floyd and said, hey, Newark, you want less police, same amount of police, or more police? 90% of Newarkers would have said, give me more police. I don't want them violating my civil rights, but I want accountable police officers who do the job of fighting crime. How could we, coming out of that, not have the conversation on how do we create higher professional standards more transparency and accountability, but we want to fund police better because let me tell you something, public school teachers who are being asked to do things you never were asked to do before, cops are being asked to do things they should not have to do. And I can show you evidence-based programs that save taxpayer money, like, hey, having mental health responders go out and deal with some of these crises. So count me in as a guy that watched, as a former mayor, that I got upset with some of these mayors that are going around saying, I'm not going to enforce certain crimes. I'm sorry, I want to deschedule marijuana, but I think some of these people might have been high when they were saying it. Because the reality is, everybody wants a safe community. Everybody wants a safe community. I have done so much work on homelessness issues. The way to deal with issues of homelessness is to create affordable housing, create a better mental health care system, create a better system that helps people who are saddled with addiction. But to tolerate people who are doing what is their only option because of our failure, sleeping in communities and making people feel unsafe, I'm a pragmatist, I'm a mayor, I'm not left or right. Let me just give you a very good example of what I'm talking about. I found this housing group. I fell in love with it when I was a mayor. When I was a mayor, I said, forget left or right. As Fiorello LaGuardia said, there's no Republican or Democratic way to fix a pothole. You just fix it. And so I said, there is not a problem we have in Newark that somebody somewhere hasn't figured out a way to solve. And I just said, let me find the best ideas and bring them to my city. And it was one of our strategies for success. And I found, God bless them, I hope they hear about this extraordinary organization called the Plymouth Housing Group in Seattle, Washington, that provided supportive housing. And for all of us housing nerds that know a lot about housing, supportive housing is very expensive. It means somebody with drugs that you're getting them counseling, you're helping them make sure they're taking whatever medication they need and the like. And so they decided, Plymouth, like me, I was a guy that said, in God we trust, but everybody else bring me data. Let's actually measure this. What's more expensive for Seattle? To leave homeless people on the streets where they could end up being a nuisance and a challenge, not just to themselves, a danger to themselves, but to other people, or putting them in the very expensive supportive housing. And guess what they found out? That in, I can't remember what it was, 2 dozen, 3 dozen people they studied, they found out that it was so much more expensive for taxpayers to leave homeless people on the streets than to put them in supportive housing. Why? A lot of people here know this, because people who are left on the streets usually end up in 2 places: hospital emergency rooms or jails, which is the most expensive way to try to treat problems. So, dear God, I wish we could declare a year. I'm not trying to be the authoritarian that Donald Trump is being, but if I was king for a year, the first thing I would say is nobody can tell me what party you're in anymore. You can't tell me what party you're in. And you can't talk about somebody else. You just have to say what you stand for, and let's make pragmatism rule. And let's create a metric which is not the best metric. I'm a spiritual guy. I think the best metric for happiness is community, is connection, how many friends you have, and all of that. But let's be one of those fiscally conservative people. And we're going to make only policy decisions that inure a return for American taxpayers. Let's make that for the year that you guys give me a chance to lead. And just say that's the metric. I'd say this because I met one pastor in this room. Where's that pastor? He was here earlier. A pastor right here. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you out, sir, if you didn't want attention. We are spiritual people. My whole life is oriented around Matthew 25. That's what moves me. But let's be fiscally conservative, you and I and the rest of everybody here. So let's, as a country, say we are only going to do the things that return benefits to us. We would not have a homeless problem. The homelessness problem we have in America costs us more money than it does. Plymouth, I already given you the one example of that. But we wouldn't stop there. Oh no. We would not have the maternal mortality rate that's the highest of developing nations. Because when you deny people prenatal care, guess what happens? The outcome is horrible. They end up in the NIC unit, medical contributions, and it all costs money. Let's go to more stupid. When I was mayor of the city of Newark, my staff used to love me saying that, let's attack stupid first. You know what is stupid is what Donald Trump is doing to the NIH. The best taxpayer dollar we have is investing in medical research. The returns we get, and this is a president that is gutting and cutting research, and because Harvard's political science department or women's studies offended him, he's cutting Harvard's science department. Stupid. When most of the bright minds on the planet Earth want to come here to invent things and stay here and let us reap the benefit. But what is he doing? He's stopping those immigrants from coming into our country. Stupid. I have a long list of stupid that if we as a country just used economics as our guide, we would be a wealthier nation, but a more just nation as well. My last stupid: hunger and poverty. How could the wealthiest nation on the planet? Now, I'm Matthew 25. When you were hungry, you fed me. When did I do that, O Lord? Whatever you've done for the least of these. That's my motivation. But if you're just fiscally prudent, I have reams of studies from even conservative think tanks that a hungry child in school cannot learn. And we know this. I can show you the evidence that the more children learn, the more we as a nation earn. We know we can cut child poverty in half. Less people below the poverty line. Did you know the more people you elevate, the more your overall GDP grows? I know we can cut child poverty because for 1 year under Biden, this was on the Senate side, it was Sherrod Brown, Michael Bennet, and the last of the killer bees was Booker. We fought, before Biden even swore his oath, please expand the child tax credit. It cut child poverty almost in half in our country. There were some studies that showed the cortisol in the children's brain levels went down, brain development even improved. The financial benefit to America of just doing that is so extraordinary because one genius, it's equally distributed, as many geniuses being born in the poorest neighborhoods or being born in the wealthy neighborhoods. You unlock that genius of human potential, anything is possible, but I can measure economically that well-fed kids that are above the poverty line produce more in lifetime earnings than other kids, if that's your metric. So why are we doing so many stupid things in America that are hurting people every day, raising their anxiety, undermining their health and well-being? Why? There is no fiscally prudent reason for it. But we are a moral nation. We were not founded because of capitalism. I'm a capitalist. I believe that this is the best system, but capitalism has been corrupted. Our moral compass in America has been corrupted by concentrations of wealth that Adam Smith would become nauseous over. We have been corrupted because we have lost the vision of the simple understanding that we all do better when we all do better, and we're all in this together.
Our last question, somebody wants to know, where do you see yourself in 2028?
Well, no matter what, I will be back in New Hampshire, I'm sure, because every election cycle, this swing state is at the center of the hinges that will turn the direction of America, and I commit myself here. And I know there's a lot of talk about 2028 now, but please, in New Hampshire, if you're a New Hampshirean, New Hampshireite, I was taught that when I came up here. If you're a New Hampshireite, please, please, please get involved in your elections from the grassroots up. Your legislature, like so many legislatures around the country, need to turn so that people aren't gerrymandering or trying to pass voucher schemes or do other things that hurt people. So if you're in New Hampshire, please, for 2026, focus on your state elections, and then the House seats here are vital. Then please send me a great senator from New Hampshire, and your governor's race is vital. So please, patriotism starts at home. And I'm very aware that the top of the ticket in New Jersey will be the Senate seat, and that's me. And so I have something that's weird. Every month, people in New Hampshire give me $5. Some of you are monthly contributors. Any contributors here to me here? Yeah. And I want to thank you for that, because about 85% of my contributions come from people who give $25 or less. I have this wonderful definition of faith, that when you come to the end of all the light you know and you're about to step into the darkness, faith is knowing one of two things is going to happen. You're going to find solid ground underneath you, or the universe will send you people who teach you how to fly. I gave up corporate contributions, and some people told me I was stupid. And then suddenly people in New Hampshire start sending me $5 a month. I'll say this, since this is the last question. I'm very moved by that man. I began my 25-hour speech and ended my 25-hour speech talking about John Lewis. I began it by trying to hold up to what he asked me to do, which was to cause good trouble. And I ended it by telling folks about my last conversation with him. Michael Collins, his chief of staff, called me up and said to me, it's not going to be long. John Lewis is going to pass away. And I'm here with him now. And he can't speak, but I wanted to give some people that were really close to him a chance to say goodbye. This is that civil rights generation. This is the baby boomers, as many of them are retiring from the Senate, many of them are leaving the House, but many of them are being called home. And so what do you do to the man who's literally changed your life from the time you were a kid, and my parents have incredible stories, they're both Fisk people, to the time you were in Washington? The best road trip of my life was jumping in a car, John Lewis and me, and driving from Atlanta to Plains, Georgia, to see another heroic man named Jimmy Carter teach Sunday school. And he puts the phone by his ear, and I don't have words yet. And I stumble and stammer. This is the last thing that he will hear on earth that I say. And I was emotional, and I was struggling. I wanted to say something to him, and then I calmed myself, and I took a breath, and I said basically this to him. I said, John, I know where you're going. You're going to be with God. You're going to be with my dad. And I know you're going to be looking down on us. And I promise you that we will make you proud. I think that promise is yet unfulfilled. I think we're in a crisis. I think there's so much pain right now, so much hurt and so much fear in America. And I believe in my heart, though, that it's in times like this that it's the seeds of our salvation. Because you can't have great courage without great fear. You can't have great hope unless you stare unflinchingly at great despair. We are down on our knees like John Lewis was beat down time and time again, but that does not define us. What defines us is how many times we stand back up and say, you can take dogs on me, you could send your batons at me, you can disrespect me and disregard me, but I am still standing, I am still fighting, because you may have betrayed our nation with your hate, but I will redeem it with our love. That's what's going to make us proud.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Love you. Thank you, please.
There's a special message in there. I don't know what it says, but
Okay.
we'll find out.
Thank you. Thank you for the question.